What's up, YouTube? My name is Arthur Robinson Jr. I'm the creator and host of PowerfulInterviews.com. I am a partner of NationalDiversified.com. I want to welcome each and every one of you to this phenomenal video. In this exclusive interview, you're going to experience life-changing information that you will not find anywhere else. I have secured an incredible interview with a great friend of mine, successful businessman, the multi-millionaire. His name is Dr. Wesley Muhammad. Dr. Wesley Muhammad is among the Nation of Islam, and he is real good friends with Minister Farrakhan. In this interview, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, he breaks down layman's terms about our culture needs to understand the science of business and the science of warfare. Also in this interview, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, he breaks down layman's terms about Gaddafi was empowering Africa. Also in this interview, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, he breaks down layman's terms about we need to understand the science of learning functional skills so we can pass that on to our children and for generations to come, and much, much more. So remember, this is not BS information. The right information would change your current situation. Wealthy people, they take advice from other wealthy people, and unfortunately, broke people, they take advice from broke people. So right about now, go get your pen and your pad, sit back and relax, and write down some notes. In this interview that I'm going to reveal to each and every one of you with my great friend, successful businessman. His name is Dr. Wesley Muhammad, and he is the best-selling author of his phenomenal book, which is called Understanding the Black Man, Black Manhood, and Black Masculinity. This interview, it will change your life. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on. That way you be well informed when I publish more audio interviews. So, check it out. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome the one, the only, the powerful Dr. Wesley Muhammad to the show.
How are you, Brother Arthur? I'm so tremendously honored to be on your platform.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the listeners worldwide about your phenomenal book, Understanding the Assault on the Black Man, and about building wealth. I gladly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Well, the honor is definitely mine. I'm impressed by your work and your global reach.
To everyone that's listening, I highly recommend go and get your pen and your pad right now. My great friend Dr. Wesley Muhammad is going to break down layman's terms about his phenomenal book, Understanding the Assault on the Black Man, and about building wealth. Is that correct, Dr. Wesley?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Now, what I'd like to know, and can you explain to the listeners in layman's terms, who is the phenomenal Dr. Wesley Muhammad? How long you been in your powerful industry, and what is your expertise?
Well, I don't know anything about that phenomenal Dr. Wesley, but I would certainly like to meet him. Very cool. But as for myself, I'm just your brother. I've been working in the movement for 28 years now, working to assist in the resurrection and the rise, mental, spiritual, physical, social rise of Black people, Brother Arthur. And my work has been done most of this time through the agency of the Nation of Islam and under the direction and tutelage of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan.
Now, I was looking at a powerful interview that you did on the Flat TV platform.
Yes,
and you basically said that you didn't vote for Obama for the second term, and you felt that Hillary Clinton was responsible for Gaddafi's death. Can you explain to the listeners in layman's terms what did you mean by that?
Oh, yes, sir, gladly. We in the Nation of Islam, we are not big in voting in national elections because we do not believe that the solution to the problem of Black people or the solution to the problem of race in America is through politics. We believe in separation, so we do not indulge greatly in national elections. Local elections, they can have a more immediate effect on our community. We are not adverse to that. But nationally, we tend to stay away from. However, I did, as did the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan and many of us, vote for our brother, but at that time, Senator Barack Obama. During his first campaign for the presidency, I voted for him, and from that day to this day, I'm proud of that vote. And the reason I voted for him, Brother Arthur, is not because I thought a black man in the White House will finally be the solution to the problem of race in America. I was not so disillusioned. I know that the president is not the real power. There's a power behind the throne. However, I voted for Barack Obama first term because of what I saw. I saw him demonstrating powerful black male intellectuality that bested every white person that was put beside him. He intellectually bested him. His campaign was so empowering to black children in particular. So the worth of his candidacy and presidency for me was what it did psychologically to black children. So I'm happy that I voted for him the first time. It served its purpose. I could not, Brother Arthur, bring myself to vote for him the second time because he allowed the hawkish Hillary Clinton, who the Clintons had a vendetta against Muammar Gaddafi. They had financial, they had dollars signed in their eyes with regard to Libya. And unfortunately, our brother, as the president, he did not stand his ground and resist that imperialism that Hillary Clinton and the Clinton operation in general was insisting on. And because of that, our brother, who was a good brother, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, was murdered in Libya, is in horrible condition today, because and that has to ultimately be placed at the doorstep of our brother. While he wasn't the motivation, he was the president, and he should have stood his ground. And so I could not vote for him the second go-round.
Now, Gaddafi was doing a lot of great things for our culture, and they basically took him out because basically he was creating an infrastructure for our people. Do you think that was the reason why they basically took him off the face of this planet, because he was empowering our culture?
Right, and he was a main advocate and actor in the empowerment of Africa itself. U.S. and France in particular were vested in the removal of Gaddafi, because Gaddafi was advancing a number of programs that threatened French and American sovereignty in Africa. For example, introducing a gold-backed African currency in Africa. This is what Muammar Gaddafi was moving towards, and that would have severely hurt France and the U.S. Gaddafi spent hundreds of millions of dollars for a satellite for Africa. Today, Africans, in order to call from one part of Africa to another, the line has to be routed through Europe and then get to Africa. It's senseless. Gaddafi was working on putting a satellite that will eliminate that. So much of what Gaddafi was about empowering Africa at the expense of European and American colonial interests. And that's why they were determined to take him out.
Wow. Now, we basically are Africans that just live in America. And when it comes to Gaddafi, basically, when he was empowering our people and he was letting the people know that you can basically be a serial entrepreneur and just collaborate with people that has the same mindset, where when you adopt the same mindset, you can actually take our people to the next level. And now Africa is being colonized, and they, basically Africa and the United States is for sale. Do you think that when it comes to our original homeland, which is Africa, do you think they should have put an infrastructure in place where Africa was just basically being tied in and connected to our people, where that way no other cultures can infiltrate and buy acres of land in Africa?
Well, yes, we definitely need an African first infrastructure. We over here in America, we exist in the Trump era where the rhetoric is America first. And the world, not the world, but certainly white folks in America are fine with that. Well, I am not ideologically opposed. Do for self is the first principle. But Africa should adopt it as well, Africa first. And so an infrastructure that has Africa's interest first is necessary. But here's the problem, brother. In order for there to be a functional Africa first infrastructure, Africa from one tip to the other must free itself from its dependence on European infrastructures. Africa is made totally dependent and deferential to European infrastructures. It's not recently that European powers have become colonials in Africa. The European powers were never not colonials in Africa. Neocolonialism is colonialism in another guise. So European powers never relinquished their states in Africa, never relinquished their control of Africa. So Africa is in a horrible condition today. It is. Our people are suffering greatly in Africa today with all of the resources available to us that God put at our feet in Africa. Yet our people are starving. Yet our people are sick from diseases that are curable. It's because we are imprisoned within the infrastructures of Europe, and Europe's interest is to keep us dysfunctional as a continent so that they can continue raping us of our minerals and resources.
You said they are raping us of our natural resources.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to empowerment, the Nation of Islam basically expresses that to the world, especially to our culture, that we have to do for self.
Yes, sir.
And I know that the ghettos was created by the Europeans. And when it comes to trades, when I was coming up in high school, you can actually, pursue being, a carpenter or electrician or a plumber. But they took the trades out of the high schools and they replaced them with degrees. And I know a lot of people where they are having 5 or 6 degrees, but they basically are working at Walmart or they're on the unemployment line. Why do you think that is when it comes to financial literacy, that they don't educate our children about building wealth?
Right, because when, as the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan reminded us, after we were so-called released through or via the Emancipation Proclamation, the powers of this country determined there were 3 things that they would never teach the ex-slave: the science of warfare, the science of business, and the science of mating. Because wealth breeds power. Power is predicated off of wealth, especially in this country. So in order to keep black people disempowered, they have to keep us separated from wealth, or to the extent that wealth flows through our fingers, which it does today, they have to keep us financially illiterate so we squander our wealth or simply return it back to them. There is a reason this country prefers us pursuing empty degrees rather than trades, because trades develop functional skills for us that we can use to build wealth and build a nation, whereas higher education in America, and I'm matriculated, I got the highest degrees in America, but it's a fact that higher education is a commercial business. They are selling degrees, much of which had little utility on the job market and certainly in nation building. So they're selling degrees to anyone who would pay for them or get loans to get in debt, and debt is slavery. They much prefer, it serves the interest of white supremacy in America to have black people pursuing degrees that will have little utility in real life, rather than black people learning trades that can build wealth and thus build nation.
You said trades develop functional skills, and when it comes to our culture, we definitely have to adopt functional skills, because skills pays the bills and skills can accumulate mills. And when it comes to sticking together, and I know the Nation of Islam is a big advocate about sticking together, but when it comes to our culture, Dr. Wesley, some of our own culture just don't stick together. Do you think the reason that being is because we adopted the slave mentality, and that has been ingrained in us since the Black Wall Street?
Yes, sir. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, has taught us that our unity, the unity of black people, is more powerful than an atomic bomb. An atomic bomb, which is a weapon. Our unity is the greatest weapon against white supremacy. Our unity is the greatest weapon against all of the onslaught against us. That being the case, if you're on the other side of the aisle, if you are invested in white supremacy, and you realize that black unity is the biggest threat, biggest weapon to the perpetuation of white supremacy, then as a white supremacist, you see black unity as a key threat. And your objective is to make sure black unity forever remains a black pipe dream and never becomes a reality. So the divisions in our community are the seeming impossibility of black people to achieve true black unity. It's not because black people are so disinclined to get together. It's because this culture systematically prevents black unity. You remember, I'm sure, as much of your audience does, the COINTELPRO program of the FBI. One of its main mechanisms was to foment division, disunity, and beef among black activists. So the disruption of black unity is a key objective of American policy. So that's what we are suffering from, not just black people can't get together, but because white supremacy is determined that black people don't unify, because black unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb.
Wow. This is an incredible interview, and I appreciate you coming on my show today, Dr. Wesley Muhammad.
Oh, I'm honored.
Dr. Wesley, we are in the process of going through a $12 trillion transfer. And there's a lot of baby boomers that are retiring, and they're looking to sell their businesses. And there's a lot of our culture that can capitalize on these profitable businesses that is for sale. When it comes to building massive wealth, I know that our people can actually really infiltrate on focusing on learning the right knowledge and learning the right information. And I say the right information can change your current situation, but we have people, especially in our culture, where they think that success is just going to happen overnight, and it takes years and years of preparation, and preparation meets opportunity. Can you explain to my audience the power of being successful, and what do it really take in regards to building a phenomenal business and having the right people on your team, because you need the right people on your team to help you build your dream?
You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
Yeah, you do need the right people with the right skill set. We black people tend to fall too much into utilizing a homeboy or a homegirl. And sometimes that pans out. One of the greatest examples is, Brother LeBron James. He put his people on, and his people served him well. He's phenomenally successful, and his people from the block are a part of that success story. However, we don't want to, we should privilege skill and know-how over familiarity. We need to utilize those who have the skill set necessary to achieve our objectives, not just utilize who's available or who we have affection for. So too many black startups fail and fail quickly. We have to learn the science of business, which again was one of the sciences that our former slave master declared they would never teach black people, along with the science of warfare and the science of mating. So we have to be skill set centric. So, because I was involved in a controversy, Brother Arthur, because when I was on the Breakfast Club, I tried to make the point that black people should not be going to these institutions of higher education, spending all of this money, getting in all this debt for the purpose of studying black studies. Black studies is important. We need it. But we can get it without giving $10,000 to $30,000 a year to a university and incurring that debt. If we go to these institutions, we need to go and study STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We need to develop skill sets, invest in developing skill sets that can be used to build nations. The same thing with our businesses. We need to focus on skill acquisition. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons for minimal success that we achieve and experience when it comes to business and the building of wealth. We will build it, but we will squander it. To the extent that we do acquire it, we don't invest in the skill set and the infrastructure to maintain it. So rarely are we able to pass it down to our future generations.
You mentioned skills acquisitions, and that's extremely important if you want to grow to the next level. And I've seen that phenomenal interview when you was on the Breakfast Club, and you basically said that our people need to get in the habit of understanding and executing mathematics, where we invented mathematics and we invented the written word. And you basically said that our people need to learn how to grow their own food and get into agriculture. Can you break that down in layman's terms so the listeners fully understand how important it is to get involved with agriculture and the power of mathematics, because you have to know your numbers when it comes to building your businesses?
That is a fact. Regarding agriculture, that's a matter of life and death, but Arthur, because one of the focuses of my work in exposing the architecture of the assault against the black man, black woman, and black child, we're exposing the key vector in this chemical assault against us is through the food that we are being fed, food that we are not the providers of. As long as we keep our mouths in the kitchen of our enemy, we are subject to his assault. We have to be food producers ourselves, which means we need land. We need farmers. We need way more farmers than we need black history scholars. We need way more farmers than black farmers than we need black religious studies scholars. So we need land in order to produce our food and free ourselves from dependency on an enemy who is vested in chemically neutralizing us through our food. So land, and the skill to work the land. That is life and death for us. Mathematics is the basis of the building of a nation. We are envisioning a Neolithic village when we talk about building a nation, a pre-industrialized Neolithic village. No, we're talking about an industrial civilization, a scientific civilization. We need math and all of the skill, all of the sciences that are dependent on mathematics. In the Nation of Islam, we teach that Islam is mathematics, and Islam is the science of everything in life. So this is a scientific religion, if you will. We privilege science and we privilege mathematics because that is the basis of the development of a functional industrial nation. Farrakhan and his unparalleled efforts to help black people. So in 1990 is when I signed on to this work under the leadership and tutelage of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. Now, it was not until, that was 1992, it wasn't until 2010 when I had the privilege of meeting the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. He called me to Chicago to Savior's Day to meet with me. He was, because I was already doing the work, and he had saw my work and was an appreciator of my work. So that's the process. I was out doing the work on his behalf, having never met him. And he watches, he sees who his helpers are out on the block, in the mosque or not in the mosque. And while I was in the mosque, I had no relationship with the structures, but I was out doing the work. And he saw it and appreciated it, and he called me one time in 2010, one of the greatest moments of my life, certainly. And from there, by God's grace, he brought me to Chicago to work closely with him, for him, as a member of his personal research team and as a member of the Executive Council of the Nation of Islam. So I'm blessed to work closely with him. And it is a tremendous honor for us.
Well, you and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, y'all been putting in a lot of work for a lot of years. And I remember when, back in the early 90s, Minister Louis Farrakhan, he was shaking up the world and letting everyone know that we have to build our own economic base. in regards to uplifting our culture. And I remember when Louis Farrakhan went on Arsenio Hall's platform, and he was delivering a phenomenal message, and they basically interrupt the TV program. And basically, after that interview, Arsenio Hall, they basically kicked him off his own platform. But he didn't own his own network. And if he would own his own network, that never would have happened. Why do you think that is after Arsenio Hall had Honorable Louis Farrakhan as a guest on his platform? Why do you think they eliminated his show after that interview?
Right. Because the message of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan will empower black people. The message is do for self. The message is economic empowerment. And that's the one thing. That's why your work and your platform, Brother Arthur, is so important. Economic empowerment is the one thing they will never allow black people to achieve. They will give us enough politicians to tickle our fancy. They will give us individual millionaires, usually athletes or entertainers, but they are dead set against collective economic empowerment. And this is the message of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which is with us today through the work of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. So they do not want black people to hear that message, to follow his lead and our lead in investing yearly. We have a 3-year economic plan. We put forth the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan from his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, has put forth economic plans that will benefit the collective, not just make individual millionaires, but economically empower the masses. And that this society never wants to see. So that's why there's such a concerted effort to keep the message of the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan from reaching his people and keeping his people from gravitating toward his message.
Wow. Now, Louis Farrakhan, as such as yourself, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, y'all have phenomenal messages that the people in our culture, as well as other cultures, they need to hear this message throughout the whole entire world. And I never seen Louis Farrakhan on Oprah Winfrey's platform. Do you think it's the reason why he hasn't been on that platform? Because a lot of her platform is some of our culture, but then she has a lot of European culture that supports her?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And I just want to make one point. I appreciate your respect for me and my work, Brother Arthur, and your respect for the work of my teacher, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. But I have to make real clear, I'm always resistant to language that seems to imply he and I are peers, that we are in the same category, that he has a message and I have a message. No, my message is effectively articulating the message that I was blessed to get and understand from him. So I am not a peer of my teacher, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. This is not a Louis Farrakhan and Wesley Muhammad show. This is the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. And if I am blessed to be successful, that will look like success as a helper of the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, my teacher, without whom I would have no effective message to share with the people. So I wanted to make that point, and I'm sorry, that tantrum will make me forget what your initial question was.
Well, I was saying that, do you think that the reason why Louis Farrakhan...
Oprah. Yes, actually, our dear sister goes out of her way to avoid being in the same screenshot as the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. She doesn't even want to be on the same stage with our brother.
Wow.
And that's most unfortunate. But if there's any question as to why, well, the answer is obvious. Sister Oprah, with whom I have great respect, however, Sister Oprah is one of a team that met in New York in 2009, I believe it was. Billionaires whose stated objective was to pool their collective $100 billion for the purpose of population control. And of those dozen or so billionaires who were in the secret meeting to pool their billions for the purpose of population control, controlling the growth of black life on the planet, starting with America, of those dozen or so who convened, all of them were white men with one exception, Oprah Winfrey, the only non-white male who secretly convened on a Rockefeller property for the purpose of strategizing the pooling of their billions to limit the growth of black life on this planet. So unfortunately, our sister Oprah Winfrey has been conscripted into the plan of our enemy. So there should be no surprise why you've never seen the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan on her platform, or have you seen them in a picture together. Our sister goes out of her way to not be at the same place at the same time with the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan.
Wow. That's very, very depressing.
It is.
When it comes to the A-list artists, the rappers, I see a lot of rappers build relationships with you, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, as well as Louis Farrakhan. And I know that if our culture in the whole just get together, we can just build our own economic base and have our own Black Wall Street to be resurrected, where we build our own black schools and hospitals and profitable businesses. But do you think that the powers that be won't allow that to happen, or do you think there's always going to be individualism?
Well, this society absolutely is committed to individualism. That's American. Individualism is as American as apple pie, as they say. That's the basis of this culture, individualism and materialism. And unfortunately, we black people, we suck from the breast of America. And so the culture of America is in our bloodstream. So we are individualists in our thinking and in our way, and that is absolutely detrimental to the objective of the collective rise of black people. We have to get out of individualism. Our entertainers, our A-list entertainers, the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan has been meeting with them collectively. They respect and honor him, and his message to them is they need to pool their resources to do something positive for black people. Individual, isolated millionaires, it's good, but it's not sufficient for black people. But we have enough black millionaires that if they weren't individualistic in their thinking, there's enough resources available to us, black people, to really make a difference in black life in America.
Wow. Now, you talked about Obama, and I know that you didn't vote for him when he got elected into office for a second term. And I know presidents are selected before they are elected. And I remember when George Bush, his son, was running for office, and his running mate was John Kerry. Now, they both went to the same schools. They belonged to the same societies. And the political action committees, they determine which way the votes go. So the reason why the poor and the middle class are being wiped out, because basically they have no representation in Congress. When it comes to the voting power, and I know that, you know, Democrats and Republicans, they basically come from the same cloth. Democrats wants to, well, basically Republicans wants to borrow and spend, and Democrats wants to tax and spend. When it comes to our economic base and our voting power, do you think that our culture should vote for our local electoral officials, like people such as yourself and the Minister Louis Farrakhan, where we can just basically build strong communities within our culture? Or do you think that when it comes to the voting power, that our people are just going to be brainwashed? Because I think that when it comes to people voting, it's just basically a circus parade.
You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
It is. Now, let me be real clear for your audience. I didn't vote for President Obama the second term, but I didn't vote for anybody. I didn't vote. You judiciously used my right to withhold my vote. And that is an important right that we have. It is not the case that black people, simply because, as it is often said, some of our ancestors died for the right to vote. I don't know that that was the reason they sacrificed their life. However, but that does not compel us to foolishly use the vote that we have acquired. We have the right to withhold our vote when it serves our interest to do so. And none of these platforms, Brother Arthur, either the Democratic or the Republican platform, serves the interest of black people. They are totally indifferent to the interests of black people. So we should not be in the business of simply delivering the black vote to whoever can tickle the ears of black people and then routinely never execute on behalf of black people. We need a third party, say the Justice Party. Now, no. You won't find either the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan or your humble Brother Wesley, involved in politics. However, we should engage local politics because we can get more out of local politics. We should run candidates in these local offices, but we should make sure they are beholden to our interests and not beholden to interests of those who will finance their campaign and put them in office.
Wow. Dr. Wesley, can you explain to the audience what is the best advice that you have ever received?
The best advice that I have ever received, the best counsel that I've received was from the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. That it's not knowledge, it's character. You can have all the knowledge that you can acquire, but without character, it's like a book on the back of a donkey. And I find that we suffer, Brother Arthur. We have a lot of knowledge acquisition in the black community. The so-called woke community is expanding exponentially. But we don't value character and integrity like we should. And so as I grow, as I watch the Honorable Brother Mr. Farrakhan, that is for me the most important lesson that I get from him and his example. We need integrity. We got enough knowledge. We got enough money. We have trillions of dollars that come in and quickly go out of our hands yearly. Black people are not a poverty people in terms of what we bring in nationally, but we need to revalorize integrity and character, Brother Arthur. And I think that will help us keep the money in our community longer than the 6 hours or so that it is in our community. It will be the basis of better Black home life. It will be the basis of the successful effort for unity. It's about character and integrity way more than it is about knowledge and wealth.
You say that it's not about knowledge, it's about building.
No, I didn't say it. No. I didn't say it's not about knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I said it's more about character and integrity than it is knowledge. We need knowledge, but we need to buttress that knowledge with character and integrity. We need wealth, but we need to buttress that wealth with character and integrity.
So you broke down layman's terms about it's about character. So your habits create your character, and your character creates your destiny?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Character and our habits will grow out of our character. Our character will give us our inclination towards certain behaviors. And so we need internal revolutions. The individualism that you mentioned is just one example of us Black people aping the worst of white people. But there are many examples of us aping white people in ways that don't benefit us. So we behave like them. We think like them to the detriment of the collective. We need an internal cleansing. We need an internal, each individually and collectively. We need an internal revolution. We need to build our character. And by building our character, being a people who places a premium on integrity versus just swag. I like swag, but swag that isn't accompanied by integrity is detrimental to the community. So we need to put a higher premium on integrity and character. And from that will derive better habits and behaviors, and thus a better community.
So let your inner world control your outer world. Don't let your outer world control your inner world, which is your integrity and your character.
That is right. Perfectly stated. Yes, sir.
Dr. Wesley, let's talk about money. Now, I know money is not value. Money is just a facilitator to do transactions. Can you explain to the audience, how would you define money?
Well, as a bartering tool, as a tool. It is a tool to achieve an end, but the problem is we have made it an end itself. And so we are obsessed, and because America is obsessed, we in Black America, who apes the worst of white people, we are obsessed with the acquisition of money as an end, not a means to an end. Money should be a means to an end, but a clearly prescribed end. An end that services black people and facilitates our healing. That should be the end for money. And so we acquire it with that in mind. Our pursuit will be dictated. Our pursuit will be dictated by that end. But because we don't have a clearly defined end for the pursuit of wealth, other than the pursuit of wealth itself, we are willing to do things to acquire wealth that is not in the best interest of black people. We're willing to be devils in the pursuit of happiness, if you will, devils in the pursuit of wealth, because the acquisition of wealth has become an end and not a means to a noble end.
You said money is a tool, so money is a byproduct of the value that you uncover?
I'll say that again.
So money is a byproduct of the value that you uncover?
Well, yes, it can be said that way. I would like to leave it simply as money is a tool, nothing more, nothing less. We have to lift our vision beyond the tool. But because we want, now let's be real clear, in our Islam, in the Nation of Islam, we are promised by our Savior, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, that an end result of our labor will be the acquisition of luxuries, money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life. So we aren't against prosperity, and we want all black people to live well. God is a wealthy God. The issue is, as Jesus said it, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all of these things will be added unto you. Well, by kingdom of heaven, we mean the rise and resurrection of black people. If that is our objective, if that is the end, then the acquisition of wealth will be a tool towards that end, and then at the end, we will be able to enjoy both wealth and luxury and healing. That's the point. We want to be able to enjoy both. But when wealth is not a tool, wealth is the end itself, then we are willing to pursue wealth at the expense of black health.
Wow. Dr. Wesley, I have a two-part question for you. I know that welfare spells backwards means farewell to economic growth. And do you think that the welfare system was basically planted to keep our people back and to be on that unfortunate system? And I seen a fascinating interview that you did on Flat TV where you broke down weed and Molly, and you talked about psychopharmaceutical logical interventions. Can you explain that to the audience so they fully understand those terms?
Yes. Well, after the riots, what they call the riots, but we know were urban rebellions of the late 60s, the government and its social scientists working on understanding why black men in particular blew up in the cities, the diagnosis that they advanced was that the problem was hostile black masculinity. That the problem at the root of the riots wasn't economic disenfranchisement, wasn't social ostracization, it was black masculinity. And so this government decided that black masculinity was a pathology, a literal sickness, and determined that they will medicate the sickness of black hostile masculinity. And the method of medicating black masculinity was through drugs, psychopharmaceutical intervention. the government decided that biomedical control of the inner cities was necessary in order to prevent future riots. Biomedical control of the inner cities. Control the inner cities through medicines, through drugs, psychopharmaceutical intervention, drugs that have an effect on the psychology, on the brain, and thus the behavior of inner city black males. This is why the inner cities are flooded with the codeines, the Mollies, and the Louds. Our drug culture, there's no such thing as recreational drug culture in black America. All of our so-called recreational drugs were imposed on us from the outside and started in laboratories as chemical weapons.
In 150 feet.
And why do you think that the welfare system was created in regards to holding our people on that system? And I see a lot of our sisters and some of our brothers is on that system where in their mindsets they feel as though there's no way out and they have to be on that unfortunate system.
Yes, welfare was a system devised and further developed to ensnare black America. And as it developed, it was weaponized against the nuclear black family. So in order to get welfare benefits, black men had to be turned out of the home. And so the whole system was structured to neutralize the black home. And then it was used, especially under the Reagan and then the Clinton administration, it was used to weaponize the community with drug laws. If being able to deny benefits that the welfare system for some was the necessary safety net. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, do for self. Stop depending on the welfare of a people who don't have our well-being in our interest. So welfare wasn't derived or didn't come from well-meaning white folks. It was white folks with an agenda. And welfare became an opiate, if you will, for black people. It increased our dependence on our enemy, and white America will continue the welfare system so long as the welfare dependency helps to keep black people from doing for self and gaining independence through financial literacy.
Wow. Now, I wrote down some powerful words, Dr. Wesley, 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, so you can rate them in your own influential way. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Accountability.
5.
Take the next right.
Perseverance.
100th place.
Oh, 5.
Unity.
Oh, 10.
Leverage.
Leverage. Well, that's 5.
You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
Speed of implementation.
Speed of implementation. Well, that I would have to rank much lower because that's relative. So I would give speed of implementation at 3.
Health.
Now,
Health is
right.
5.
Wealth.
Route
Wealth
recalculation.
is 4.
Building great relationships.
Building great relationships.
In
I put
1,000 feet, turn sharp. sharp.